And we're going to talk about tax with Sir Geoffrey Clifton-Brown, MP, Chair of the Public Accounts Committee, because, of course, wouldn't you know it, not content with taxing us up the wazoo, HMRC are complaining that there's too much tax dodging going on. So, Geoffrey, very good morning to you.
Good morning, Mike. Good to be on the programme again.
Thank you very much indeed. It's good to see you. I mean, it's like the sort of the beast in the corner of the room that can never be satisfied with, no matter how much food you give it. It just wants more. HMRC got a bit of a cheek talking about tax dodging, haven't they? I mean, surely they should go after the people who criminally tax dodge, and they should leave the rest of us alone.
Well, they are, is the answer, but they're not doing it sufficiently. Our report makes clear that there is around about £5.5 billion that is evaded or deliberately not paid by taxpayers,
right,
and that the Inland Revenue are not really sufficiently curious as to where that money is not being paid. And we've been criticised for that figure. But let me tell you what it's based on. It's based on the Inland Revenue's own calculations.
Right.
They don't know totally what the amount of tax dodged is, but they say that is the figure that they estimate. It could be up, it could be down. But what we do know is that what we've been pushing for is all these firms that bring stuff in from abroad have been avoiding their tax, and we pushed for a change in the law for these online marketplaces.
Right.
And that has yielded £1.5 billion, and that's 5 times more than the original HMRC estimate. So if they underestimated that, they're probably underestimating the amount of tax that's not paid.
Yes.
So this is a really serious matter.
I mean, it's interesting, isn't it? I mean, one of the things that I'm told that you've highlighted is VAT registration processes, for example, are far too open to abuse. I mean, I pay VAT with my business, and, you know, if I miss a payment or if I fail to make the payment on time, I get hammered with a fine. So, I mean, how is it that that law-abiding citizens like me end up getting treated badly? But if you want to be a dodgy character and register yourself for VAT on a lesser amount or something like that, you get away with it.
So this is the whole thrust of our report, Mike. The Inland Revenue are going over are chasing the easy targets, but the more sophisticated scams, like those that we call phoenixism, who are registering companies, then dissolving them, going into a new company, and avoiding their debts, and doing this several times in a row, is one of the ways which those that are determined to avoid their debts do so. And what we are really saying is that the Inland Revenue obviously needs to tighten up on this, but there needs to be a more combined effort by Inland Revenue, Companies House, who have no mechanisms of verifying where a company actually is, even if it does exist,
right,
and the Insolvency Service. They need to get together, they need to have proper data, work together, and try and collect some of this more difficult to collect money that isn't being paid to the Inland Revenue at the moment.
Right. And have you been able to identify where most of these miscreants are, in terms of whether they're companies, whether they're individuals, whether they're foreign nationals? What are they?
They are a mixture of all of those,
right,
but I think there's a particular loophole around companies actually forming themselves, then dissolving, and then reforming themselves. That's one particular loophole we identified.
Right. And I mean, given the number of shall we say, focuses at the moment on tax, because we're seeing just in the Telegraph this morning that Rachel Reeves is likely to put tax up even more. I mean, potentially, for a government that's as desperate for money, you'd think they'd be much better at chasing after it.
Well, the government, she in her last budget did give the Inland Revenue an extra 640 million, and they reckon that they should be able to recoup an extra 6.4 billion. So the government themselves recognise there is all this money out there that isn't being collected by HMRC, and it's up really to the government. They have the power to do this, combined with HMRC, to go after these people and make sure the tax is paid.
Well, you would think so, wouldn't you? Because we are under immense financial pressure, it would appear, according to economists, that the financial headroom that Rachel Reeves did have, she no longer has. And so there's a pretty good likelihood that when she makes her speech in March, their sort of budget statement for whatever it's going to be called, there's going to be more taxes put on, and it's likely to be income tax, which, of course, they promised not to put on.
I've always said, Mike, and I maintain this really strenuously, that the last budget, which put up taxes and did so much damage to our businesses, national insurance, taking so much money out of our businesses, which they don't have to invest. But I've always said that tax increases that in the last budget are only the first instalment. I can tell you there will be many instalments to come if this government can't balance their books better.
Yeah.
They're basically spending too much.
Well, they're spending too much because they're giving money away to all the wrong people, aren't they? They're giving it to anyone who works in the public sector. They all got a pay rise as soon as they walked in the door into Downing Street. And they're now apparently planning to spend upwards of 18 billion, if you believe Nigel Farage, could be 52 billion, by giving away the Chagos Islands. It turns out, we found out last night, that one of the people who ordered us to give the Chagos Islands away is a former member of the Chinese government. And a member who now sits on the board of the International Court of Justice.
Well, I think that actually giving the Chagos away is one of the most daft things you could possibly do.
Yeah.
Not only is it economically illiterate, but actually it's giving away a vitally strategically important base. And if somebody like the Chinese were to get into the Chagos and establish their own base, this would be really serious from a security point of view. So I think, I just sometimes think that this government need to really, really examine what they're doing, because it's not sensible.
Well, it certainly isn't sensible. I mean, we examine what they're doing every day, and I haven't found anything sensible in about 8 months. Thank you very much indeed. But listen, good to talk to you. Sir Geoffrey Clifton-Brown MP, Chair of the Public Accounts Committee. So it turns out that not only is the government spending too much money, not only is it giving money away which it shouldn't be doing, it's also not collecting the tax revenue from the people who owe money. And instead they're coming after the sort of legitimate people like the rest of us who do things by the book. It's absolutely shocking.